Hello. How's everybody doing? I almost feel like I'm stepping into the ring there with that countdown. So, hope everyone's well on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. Maybe do me a favor here. No matter what platform you're tuning in on, give me a thumbs up in the comment section if you would. Just let me know you can hear me and you can see me okay. That would be a big help. Even better, actually, let me know where you're tuning in from if you can. I'm coming to you from Ashtown today, right beside the Phoenix Park in Dublin. And we'll get going in just a moment. We're going to talk about Wellbeing Champions. So this is going out live. We're going out live we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. So no matter what platform you're using, if you drop something in the comment section, I will see it. Hi, Brona. Wash your hands. We're still washing the hands. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was almost meant to be a thumbs up. Oh, Brona's tuning in from Northern Ireland. Hi, Brona. Marie from Gweedore and Donegal. So a lot of people up north checking in. Hi, Marie. Ray's tuning in. All good. Sound is good, Ray. Excellent. Caroline in Dublin. Fantastic. There's Brona in Northern Ireland. Okay, so sound is good. Oh, Lisa's in Limerick. This is a lovely spread, actually. Roisin is in Laois. Do we have Roisin there? Yeah, there's Roisin. So yeah, no matter what platform you post on, I should be able to see it. Michael's in Ashbourne. And I think we've got all four corners there. Here's Westport. Ethna's in Westport. And Carol's just north of London as well. So we're going across the water as well. Hi, Carol. Nicola's in Dublin. Fantastic. So great spread. So thanks, Evan. Thanks for confirming that. Always good to know. I'm here on my own, so it's good to know that I'm not speaking to myself. Oh, and hold on. I'm just going to pick this up. We've got Desi joining us from Australia. Fantastic. Must be early in the morning there, is it, Desi? And we've got Warwickshire represented as well. Hi, Davina. Okay, that's fantastic. And Ursula's in North Dublin. Okay, great. Let me just give a kind of formal introduction before we get started then. So this is the latest in our WorkWell live webinar series. So you're all very welcome. The goal of the WorkWell live webinars is to promote and share ideas and advice that can support in improving our own well-being and the well-being of our colleagues and our wider work environment. Okay, so that's particularly apt today because we're going to be talking about well-being champions. So the webinars are just one part of the WorkWell community. We also have podcasts. If you haven't checked that out yet, it's called the WorkWell Podcast. We have blogs. We have a private forum where you can ask questions. And we have an online education hub, and that's called the WorkWell Institute. And so it's all curated through our free weekly WorkWell newsletter. So if you're not on that list, go to workwellireland.ie and you can sign up to that mailing list for free and you'll be added on. We try and send one newsletter a week. Now, on today's webinar, I'm going to talk about well-being champions. So I'm going to talk about how they're important and how and why they're important, and how we might go about embedding a team of well-being champions in our organization. Okay, and if you enjoy what you see today, and if you'd like to take things a step further at your workplace, then hang on till the end of this session. So I'm going to talk about the Wellbeing Champion training that we offer at Workplace Wellbeing Ireland. That's only at the end of the session, okay? So how does that sound? Are we good? Give me a thumbs up there. Let me know if we're good. Oh, it's 11 p.m. in Australia there, where Desi's tuning in. Very good. Staying up late just for the WorkWell webinar. That's the kind of attitude we're looking for around here. Fantastic. Okay, so I think we're all good. You can all hear me. If at any stage you can't hear me or see me, let me know. I'm going to just share some slides here and we will get started. And again, any questions at all during the session, pop them into your comment section, no matter what platform you're tuning in on, and I'll check back in anytime we have some questions or comments. Okay, let me get my slides going here. So you should be able to see this now on the screen. Again, let me know if you cannot. So why are we here? Well, I'm hoping that you're here because we're all kind of in the same boat. We're all looking to embed a culture of health. There are plenty of other ways to, quick fixes out there that you can kind of look to kind of start random acts of wellness in your workplace. But everything we do at the Work Well community is about it's long-term investments, and our ultimate goal with all our kind of ideas, with all our interventions, with all our programs, is to over time to embed a culture of health at the workplace. And the Wellbeing Champions is just one way of doing that. So I'll show you where this sits within our overall kind of philosophy, if you like. Some of you will be familiar with our 8-step framework for developing a workplace wellbeing program that lasts. And this is your long-term investment. This is embedding your culture of health. So the first step is that all important growing leadership commitment, and they're getting their involvement and alignment over time. And what we're talking about today then is we're going to niche down on step number 2 and look at the importance of creating that team of wellbeing champions. So you can look at this maybe as your grassroots, if you like. We're trying to get out into every kind of area and department and hear as many voices as possible across the organization. So if you just look at the 8 steps. So steps 1, 2, and 3, I call them the people steps. That's all about gathering information, data, understanding the needs and wants of our people, all the way from the leadership to the grassroots, and getting their input as well, involving them in the process. So they're involved all the way through. We're making sure we're documenting this. We're trying to make it as strategic as possible. We're identifying high-level goals here at step 4, based on all the work we've done in steps 1, 2, and 3. And look, only when we get to step 5 are we actually choosing the interventions. So there's nothing random about the interventions that we're choosing. We're choosing them based on an awful lot of groundwork, all our people, what our people's needs and wants are. So that's kind of how all the work we're doing in advance is really going to stand us in good stead when we do actually choose those interventions. They're really going to be supportive of what our people are looking for. Okay, so our team of wellbeing champions. Let's have a look at this. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. Let me know in the comments who else is a fan of Simon Sinek, Sinek. He wrote this great book quite a few years ago now called Start With Why. And anytime I'm introducing a subject or a topic, I do this with my online programs and also in the postgrad at Trinity, I always start with why, with the golden circle. So we're here in the middle. We're going to kind of create our why statement. Why do we care about wellbeing champions? Why are wellbeing champions important in our organization? So we're going to start there. But then, unlike Simon, we're going to jump ahead to the what, to the outer circle, and say, what would this look like? What would our wellbeing champions look like in an ideal scenario? Maybe a couple of years down the line, what would that look like? And then we're going to take a step back and we're going to look at the how. How can we get from the why, from our why statement, to our what, to our ideal scenario? So that's the format for today. So we'll go through that process. So starting with why. So I'm going to hand back to you for a second here. Why wellbeing champions? Who'd care to pop something in the comments section? Why should we have a team of wellbeing champions? Why would a wellbeing team be important in our organization? Feel free to let me know in the comment section there. I'll just give everyone a moment to have a think about that. If you have a pen and paper, by the way, that'll be handy today. There'll be a few points you might want to take notes on. So wellbeing champions, why? What's our why? I'm going to see if I can pop back into my restream here. Oh, great. Carol loves Simon Sinek. Yeah, I'm a big fan. There's a great TED Talk, actually, he does. You can check that out as well. I'm going to comment in. Yeah, so they will know firsthand. I think you're talking about the why. They can be our eyes and ears on the ground. Absolutely, Annette. Yep. What else? Any other thoughts? Wellbeing champions. Here's my why statement. So wellbeing should not be owned by one person or one group. So why am I saying that? Quite often, from all the programs that I've seen that have been very well, great intention behind them. Maybe there's been a budget. They might have had leadership support, but they've fallen down. They've failed, or ultimately they haven't just got the engagement that they were looking for, because there was that perception within the organization that this well-being program or these well-being interventions was just another either management or HR initiative designed to, I don't know, wring a little bit of extra productivity out of people. It was kind of the us and them. So that's why I'm saying here, we should go out of our way to try and ensure that Wellbeing is not owned by one person or one group. And quite often it's HR where it sits, and that's absolutely fine to have, the leader in the HR or whatever department. But can we empower a team or a network across the organization to input into what we're doing from a well-being perspective, to empower them, to make sure it's not just being driven and led completely by one person or one team, because that's where well-being programs can fall down. We want to get to the point where it's a shared value across the organization, and the best way to do that is through a team of well-being champions. Does that make sense? Peer learning, Brony, yeah, absolutely. So peers are, it's kind of hard to underestimate the importance of our peers, or how much we learn, or how much we follow our peers. So it's a really good point. For the well-being of all staff, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we want to kind of reach every department, every function, every location within the organization. Yeah, absolutely, Marie. And Marie's just telling me it needs to be driven and owned by employees. Exactly. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying, Marie. Yes, I just saw this now. You've probably said that before I even mentioned it. So if it's seen as if it's just another HR initiative, it just will not be as successful as if it has that kind of ownership and buy-in from the rest of the team. Sharon's just saying I'm freezing there. I'm freezing. Not that cold, surely, but I assume you mean the screen, Sharon. Let me know if I'm freezing or anything like that. Oh no, I am I? Oh dear. The old Wi-Fi here. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully I can get through this anyway. Let me know if you're having really bad trouble hearing me or seeing me. This is being recorded, so hopefully the recording will come out okay. So the what, I'm going to jump ahead now to the what, the outer circle, what this might look like in an ideal scenario. So a couple of years down the line, our team, it's an inclusive team. So all the kind of relevant employee and stakeholder groups are involved, they're represented in the planning, in the executing of the organization's approach to wellness. So our team is inclusive of every voice, every department, every location, whatever way our organization is broken up. We're collaborative and we're cooperative as well. And it's cross-functional. So cross-functional stakeholders. So there might be a representative from facilities, from finance, from all the different departments, depending on how our organization is structured. And we all collaborate and coordinate in support of employee wellness. And here's the important one again, where the team is empowered. So the people that are responsible, this team is empowered, they're responsible, and they're empowered maybe in time. So they have formal time allocated, and then they're funded as well. So if there's a need for funding, there isn't always need for huge amount of funding. I mean, it can help. It depends on what you're looking to do. But they are funded if there's funding required. So they're empowered to do what they haven't just come up with this idea themselves and they're trying to run with it. They're empowered by the organization, by senior leadership to do what they do. Does that all make sense? Hopefully I'm coming through a little better now. Okay, excellent. Fine on YouTube, says Carol. That's good. Maybe it is. Oh dear. So maybe it's just a LinkedIn thing. We can blame LinkedIn. And Desi must also be modeled by top management. Absolutely. Well, leading by example is so important. That's one of the things we touch on in step one, the importance of leading by example. And that can be, that is our leadership team, but also then our team of wellbeing champions. And then it's the peer, how that affects our peers, the importance of that. Okay, great stuff. Thanks, everyone. So just some questions to consider before we move on to our how. You're probably thinking, how should we go about creating our team? If you have your pen and paper, now is a good time to have a think about what functions or areas should be represented. So again, you'll know your organization better than anybody else. And then what diverse voices would you like represented? So there's 3 important questions for you as you're just brainstorming how you might go about putting your team together. And hopefully this next slide, we look at the how here. This should help inform or maybe answer some of those questions for you. First thing, and probably most important, is no one should be forced to join your Wellbeing Champion team. This should be something that people kind of put their hand up for, that they volunteer for. So that's something that's important. Now, you can nudge people who you think would be a good fit. And if you have let's say there's a certain area where you don't have a champion, absolutely, it's okay just to give a nudge or two, but a nudge, nothing more than that, for people to put their hand up for this. Here's one. When you're kind of looking for volunteers, especially if you're starting from scratch, you're probably asking people to sign up to be a Wellbeing Champion where the role hasn't even been defined yet. So, and maybe you might go ahead and jot down a couple of points of what might be involved. But I think, I'll come to this in a few moments, a real way to create that shared ownership is if you can encourage the champions, the new champions, to define that role, to help you define that role. So I know it's a bit of a chicken and egg that you're asking them to sign up to something where the role hasn't been defined. But if you can maybe be transparent and say, look, sign up, help us shape the role, help us define what that role might look like within this organization. Again, it's just another great way of helping to create that shared ownership and really getting their buy-in from day one. So you'll definitely want, you don't want, the entire team, the Wellbeing Champion team, made up of people from just one or two departments. That's going to defeat the purpose altogether. You need as many kind of different functions, departments. Maybe you're spread over locations. Maybe you want a couple of different seniority levels as well. This can be it can be a senior leader involved. There can be someone who's just in the door, a couple of months. You want a mix of seniority levels. You want men, you want women. You want a mix of just a good mix of profiles and voices. Here's an interesting one as well. You want different job types represented. So I worked for Vodafone in what feels like a previous life. In Vodafone, let's just, for an example of different role types within Vodafone, we had the head office staff. So people who are sitting at a desk most of the day. You want, at a minimum, you want someone representing those guys. We had the retail stores. So everyone out in the shops on Grafton Street, all the way to Cork, to Galway, to Limerick, all different stores, different parts of the country represented. You want, at least a voice for the retail outlets. We had a field force, the people fixing the network, working on the network every day, out and about. And we had sales teams. So you might have people, again, in different parts of the country, mostly working out of their cars. So 4 very different role types there, and there's probably 1 or 2 more as well. So have a think about the different role types within your organization and make sure they have a say. Other voices as well. Yeah, and yes, that is the image from the TV show. I couldn't find another image. But what do I mean by other voices? We want as many other voices as possible. Can it be, you've probably got full-time and part-time workers, parents and non-parents. What about someone who does even the 3-day week? Here's a very interesting one and topical at the moment, hybrid working. Maybe you're going to have a split in people that are fully remote, people that are fully in the office, and then the hybrid, of course. So different voices, as many different voices and backgrounds represented as possible. And before you start thinking, well, we've already got over 100 people on the team here. A parent can be an office staff working part-time in finance. You can kill a few birds with one stone, if that makes sense. And then finally, what are you going to do? Are you going to throw them into the deep end? Or are you going to provide some kind of form of education for them and get them up to speed in some shape or form? How are you going to do that? What's your plan for doing that? Does that all make sense? Kind of how we might go about, even recruiting for our team. Does that make sense? What's Claire just say? Yeah, so people who naturally look after themselves and not people who want to do something trendy. Yeah. And I would say, and when I talk about Wellbeing Champions as well, I'm not talking, it can be, but it doesn't have to be, people who are out running marathons every week or who are in the gym every day. It's not I'm not looking for, in fact, super fit people. Well, they're very welcome to try out for the or to be a wellbeing champion. You just want people who are willing to lead by example when it comes to health and well-being, and they might have had an unhealthy past, but they're just making it, they've made a change, and they're just leading a healthy lifestyle in terms of nutrition, taking breaks from work, just promoting that kind of activity. It does not have to be somebody that's super fit. I'm not saying that whatsoever. And absolutely, as Claire is saying, they're not just looking to tick the well-being box. Open-minded people, as Carol is saying here. Yeah. Very open-minded. Yeah, people who want. And you know what? Like, here's the thing. So you can have all the budget in the world. You can have fancy, shiny offices and free food and all that stuff. The best well-being programs that I have seen, and organizations with a culture of health, the programs that they have built have all been started and led by people that are just genuinely passionate about doing good and promoting health and well-being for themselves and for their colleagues. That is always the way. It's always, if you look deeper, you will find the passionate person or people behind that. So they're the type of people. It might take time to form the team, but over time, if you can get there, I mean, that's where the really quality programs and initiatives and interventions come from. Emily just having a comment. This is great, by the way. Thanks for all the comments, guys. Yeah. A pitfall. It's all entirely HR almost, isn't it, Emily? And then it's not shared. And if it's successful, it's unlikely to be as successful as it can be if it's just not that shared ownership. And again, if it's one person or one team that are holding that budget or all the power, it just doesn't lead to that engagement or that long-term success. Okay, I'll go on to the next point. So I said I'd come back to this. I think a key part of this is, can you involve the champions themselves in defining the role? I mean, this is day zero almost. So you're not telling them you're not forcing them, what they're signing up to. You're giving them that input from day zero on, help us shape this team and the roles and the tasks so that it can best serve you and your colleagues. So I think that's a powerful message to send to everybody. And look, they can put down lots of stuff. They mightn't get everything they're looking for, but I think if you empower them this way, you think you'll find people buy into the idea. They'll be most people are extremely reasonable as well. So ask them these questions. This is usually in a workshop format is probably the best for doing this. Find out, like, what are your own expectations for the role? What do you think? What are the tasks going to be? How best can you serve your colleagues or support your colleagues? What do you expect you will be doing on a day-to-day or a week-to-week or a monthly basis? What would that look like? Kind of think, the more you can kind of plan this out and jot this out and get this into a role description, the better. And even when you do, you probably have a draft coming out of this. This is going to help you recruit colleagues in the future then as well. Here's something that's often overlooked. You're asking people to volunteer for something, but is it indefinite? Is it for a year, 2 years? Maybe put some kind of structure around that. A year can often be a good thing, and if it's not working out, if people are busy with other tasks, that's fine. Maybe they roll off and somebody else rolls on. Or you can keep extending year on year if you're really getting into it. So I think that's important. So it's clear from the outset. The tenure then as well. So that's what I was talking about there with the tenure. Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Is it indefinite? A time commitment, maybe per week, per month. Is allocating formal time, or is this side of desk? I've seen both. Depends on your organization, what might work there. And communication, and how are we going to communicate? Are we tied to the way many organizations are? Is it the weekly or the monthly Wellbeing newsletter, or how will this work? How can we get our story out about what we're doing as a Wellbeing champion team, and how will we communicate internally then ourselves? Is it monthly meetings? Is it fortnightly meetings? And all those kind of questions are so important to have kind of defined early on. So I'd really recommend, if you can, get your volunteer champions in early and get them helping you to define and brainstorm this idea. Yeah. And just Marie talking about role models that are, role models, people that are promoting just healthy behaviors, people that are, look, think about it. Imagine you start a new organization on a Monday morning and you see just the people around you getting out for 20 minutes, 15-minute walk at 11 o'clock, just to clear the head, take a break. You see them going, bringing in a healthy lunch, sharing that with colleagues, over a chat at lunchtime with colleagues. Then again, getting out for like a 10-minute stroll after that kind of idea. Just healthy behaviors being modeled over time, clocking out at 5:30, this kind of idea, not sending emails at midnight, just a slow over time demonstration of healthy behaviors. So role modeling, leading by example, and role modeling healthy behaviors. And hopefully then that the leadership team then is celebrating those healthy behaviors. So the people that are absolutely working hard, getting the work done, but they're also the ones being recognized and celebrated in the organization with, is it reward, is it recognition, is it promotions, etc. Okay, so will I give you some examples? It's always nice to see what the Joneses are doing, isn't it? So just a couple of examples of three Irish organizations. Now they're large organizations, so company I just happen to have worked with in the past, so I know what they're doing. But don't be put off by the size and scale of these organizations. This is, in fact, the smaller the operation, I would say, the easier it is to get these champions involved and embed a culture of health. So do not be put off by the size of these companies. By the way, before I get to the companies, here's just some examples of what some of these companies, small, medium, and large, what they're doing and the roles, what they might have tasks for specific wellbeing champions. So have a look at these. Doesn't mean you have to do these. This is just an example of what some companies are doing. So I think that makes sense. They're just championing that area. We've been talking about that. They're an information hub. They're kind of boots on the ground, communicating the key messages. Maybe that's coming from central. Maybe you've got a central leadership team or a wellbeing leader in whatever department, but you're promoting all the key messages. You're getting feedback, or you're listening to people. What are they looking for? What are they looking to do? Where's the current enthusiasm? What are people looking for at this moment in time? Here's a really important one. I think it's a nice one for champions. If they have a really good understanding, this might be part of the education. Can you give them an extra workshop or two on the services and the supports that you as an organization have? Maybe it's your EAP program. Maybe it's your mental health first aiders. Maybe it's just the kind of physical activity resources you have access to in some shape or form. So if you can educate as much as possible your champions on what you have available as an organization and what's out there, and maybe even externally as well, and they can just be they're not experts in the field, but they're just able to signpost. They're just aware of what's out there and they can share that information with others. Again, if you can really hands-on, you might be at a local level, you might be creating some small little marketing campaigns. Live events can often be nice, again, at a local level. This is in addition to maybe some of the main stuff that's been running out of maybe the central wellbeing function. The feedback, as I've mentioned, is an important one. What's the point in running the same initiative again if it's just not getting good feedback? And look, you're collaborating with your team, you're building a relationship with your team. Action plan, you're supporting the wellbeing leader in delivering greater health and wellbeing in your organization. Is that all making sense? Yeah. Look, comment from Desi here. Careful that we're not just, I guess, implementing attractive fitness, fruit bowls, and yoga initiatives. Yeah, exactly. Mass poor job design. Yeah. So as I often try and say, Desi, can you take a step back and look at the organization design? And ISO 45003 was a great help with that. Kind of the world's first global standard on psychological health and well-being, but kind of putting the focus back on how work is organized. Social factors at work, these kind of stuff that annoys people at work, and can we kind of put a bit more of a focus on that? And then once we kind of maybe we're doing a good job there, Then we can add in all the nice initiatives on top, like the fitness and fruit bowls and stuff like that. Excellent. Thanks for the thumbs up, Glenn. Okay, so now let's look at just a couple of companies that have just maybe look a bit at their structure. ESB, one of Ireland's largest companies that kind of network around Ireland. I just like this is, in addition to their, so let's say you sign up as a Wellbeing champion at ESB. Here's the handbook you get as part of it. This is established now a couple of years, so this might be something to aim for if you're just starting out. But look, alongside a little bit of training when you sign up as a Wellbeing champion at ESB. What's the first thing you see in your handbook? The role and responsibility of a champion at ESB. You've got knowledge, details of what's going on, the kind of programs that you have planned or the supports that are available. Here's a nice one. So they call it the Elevation Awards in ESB. So if you're fortunate enough to have some kind of funding, this is how it works in ESB. So they have a team working centrally, managing all of this. But then at a local level, let's say you're one of the Wellbeing champions based down in County Kerry, and you have an idea for a local initiative, you can apply for funding through the Elevation Awards. I think you can do this twice a year, and there's up to €250 available each time, maybe to support whatever kind of local campaign it is that you're running. So a couple of times a year, you can get up to €500 a year. And that's for each of the champions. And there's over 60 Wellbeing champions in ESB. So just a nice little extra on top of all kind of the central or the company-wide programs that they're running. And look, the handbook is a nice way to share stories about the champions. That's another kind of nice way to communicate what you're doing and who's involved and who a champion is, so people will know who you are. If you can do that in your kind of newsletters and other publications, that'll be good too. And then they also use supporting technology as well to talk about stuff that's happening in real time. There's just one example there, the ESB. Another large example would be AIB. I've just kind of included the structure here. And again, don't let this put you off. AIB have over 10,000 employees. They've probably Ireland's largest Wellbeing champion network. They call them Wellbeing advocates. There's about 120 or so. And they're so large, actually, they have a kind of an overall Wellbeing governing council. We're made up of about 20 of the advocates sit on this. So that'd be as close to the Wellbeing champion team, if you like, that we're talking about today. And then they report into they're lucky enough to have a full-time Wellbeing officer, but they also have a Wellbeing team. I think there's 7 people on the team now. So positive to see, an organization like AAB with so many full-time people, and then of course so many, Wellbeing advocates then as well. So definitely positive signs that this is kind of the future of how organizations are shaping up. Yeah, Desi just saying, I'm a big fan of the new ISO standard, ISO 45003. If you haven't come across it yet, definitely. One of my previous webinars was on that actually, so that's worth checking out. Now, I think we're almost there. I've got one more example of a company doing just something slightly differently. So what I've been talking about here really is, I'm looking at it as the World Health Organization would say, like the 4 quadrants of well-being. So I'm looking at the personal health resources. I'm looking at the personal health and safety. I'm looking at the environment, the wider environment. And of course, I'm also looking at the psychosocial work environment as well. That from a well-being champion perspective. I'm not kind of ruling any area in or out. I'm including them all when I'm talking about my well-being, this kind of well-being champion team. What Accenture have done here in Ireland is they're focusing in on the psychosocial work environment. So just the one quadrant, so the mental well-being of their colleagues. And they've created a mental health ally team, if you like. They initially started with, they got some training from Mental Health First Aid Ireland for a number of their colleagues. They've since gone on to develop their own internal program now, where I think it's a one-day program where Accenture colleagues can put their hand up to go through the program, and they become a mental health ally at Accenture. And they've got, lots of, so it's, in other words, they're kind of there to signpost colleagues. So they have just a little bit of extra information and training where they can support their colleagues that want to have a conversation. And there's kind of nice, kind of almost branding to go along with it. Accenture's main color is purple, but if you're an ally at Accenture, you've got a green, they call those things, the word has left me, but a lanyard, a green lanyard. And also when you're in the online world as well, their background is kind of green. It says I'm a mental health ally, as there's their signature. So slightly different, almost niching down, if you like, in the Wellbeing champion sphere. So that's another option that some organizations have chosen. Any thoughts, any questions on our champions, on our examples, on the types of roles or the role definition there? Any thoughts on that? All clear. All clear. Excellent. Great stuff. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I'm just seeing, I know you can't see all the text I'm sharing. Oh, how many? Okay, good question, Carl. So, how many champions would you expect to have? I wouldn't put a number on it. So there's no hard and fast rule. Obviously, it depends on the size of your organization. The larger your organization, you're probably going to have a few more champions. But I would look at it more in terms of how are your departments broken out or your functional areas broken out. If you're a really large organization, you might be looking at 2 champions per divisional area at a minimum, I would say. If you're smaller, you're looking at one per divisional area. As I was saying, the most I've seen in Ireland, AIB, 10,000 employees, they have 120 champions. ESB, I'm not sure their employee numbers, but they're probably around 5,000 or 6,000. They have a 60, a little over 60. Good question in from Claire. Champions, advocates, any other words to describe the role? So I personally, I just go with champions just by default. AIB use wellbeing advocates. What else? Oh, recent training I did was a company, their choice, they chose Wellbeing Warriors. That was their name. And of course, I work with Trinity as well, and in particular, Tangent within Trinity. They're kind of Trinity's innovation space, and they have a wellbeing champion team. But given the nature of the work that they do, they've given their team the name of Wellbeing Innovators. So the choice is yours. I would try and tie it to, if where possible, kind of your field or the kind of area your company is in. Yeah, and this is a long one. I don't know if we get the whole text in here, Emily, but surely I think we'll be able to see the full text. If you're on LinkedIn, you might be able to see that. Essential steps to prefer. And Emily does great work in terms of the recruitment side of things, actually, because that can be something that is often overlooked. Is when we're asking people to put their hand up for, is it wellbeing champions? Is it, in particular, is it mental health champions? People don't know what they're putting their hand up for. So have a look at what Emily's doing in terms of the recruitment process. Can you, put in some safeguards in your recruitment process for when you're recruiting? Almost in advance, a pre-check before you're recruiting, because it's not for everyone. You're going to be exposing people, especially in the mental health champion training side of things, to some difficult scenarios. So are the supports in place then afterwards for those colleagues as well? So there's a few considerations there as well. Ambassadors, yeah, I'm good with ambassadors. I like it. I've come across wellbeing ambassadors as well. Yeah, I think whatever makes sense for your organization. Wellbeing. I know the reason when the Wellbeing Warriors was chosen by that company I worked with recently was because they had, what did they have? They had a different team that were already champions in some shape or form. Was it employee experience champions or something like that? So they didn't want to confuse the matter. So they went with Wellbeing Warriors. Yeah, actually, well, tell you what, Desi, if you remind me, send me a note. I did a session with Accenture last year, and 2 of their colleagues who were involved in the program, they kind of talked us through a bit of a case study on what it looked like. So if you just send me a reminder, if I don't get back to you, Desi, I'll send you a link to that, or you'll find it on the YouTube page. But it's from it's from about the middle of last year, I would say. Or actually, no, 2020 even. Just seeing a question here this is great, by the way, guys. Keep the questions coming. Questions from Vinny. What advice would you give for a wellbeing champion to influence the program? Everyone not has access to online. Yeah, okay. Well, that's where your inclusive voices come through. So you definitely want, not everyone has access to online. So you definitely want at least a couple of those people who are on the champion team to look, hold on, why is this training online? I don't have access, I'm not online. So there's 1 point. So they have a voice in that. So it depends. What advice would I give? Well, I suppose I'm trying to give the advice to the organizations here to say, get your champions involved from as early as possible. In fact, work with them from day zero to get them developing, defining the role as much as possible. So it's their role, it's their well-being champion program, it's their well-being program, and they're involved in the strategy, the design, the development, all of that from day zero, as much as is possible. And I think you'll find if you empower people like that, that's where you get the buy-in. And if their peers see this, they see, well, this isn't HR's program. This is our well-being program. So for the well-being champions, it's for the leaders, it's get these well-being champions involved from as early as possible in the process, and give them as much autonomy as possible, where possible. You're a warrior. Great stuff. I'm not sure who that is, but it's, well, oh, look at this. I like this one I haven't heard this one before, but from Marie. Wellbeing enablers. So we're enabling wellbeing at our workplace. Love it. Okay. Now, questions, thoughts, questions, final questions. What are we coming up to nearly a quarter to? I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Wellbeing Champion training for anyone who wants to hear about it. I'll talk about that. A few more questions coming in, which is great. So, Claire, what about data? How do you know it's working? So in other words, how do we know our Wellbeing Champion program is working, or maybe our Wellbeing program in general? So I was just having this conversation yesterday. When it comes to data or gathering metrics from any wellbeing program, first of all, I never tell a company what they should be measuring. I think it's they need to understand themselves where they should be measuring. And here's a nice way to look at it. Imagine 1 year from now, whether it's your Wellbeing Champion program or your Wellbeing program in general, you're reviewing. So you're in a room, you're presenting back to the key stakeholders in your organization. First of all, who are those key stakeholders? So, take note of that. Who are these? Who's got an involvement in this? Who wants to see the progress and the data? So that's first of all. Number two, can you understand what are they looking to see? What angle are they coming at? Are they looking to see this from a pure financial perspective? Are they looking to see, we invested X and we got a return of Y? Is it just as simple as that? Are they looking for that? Are they looking for, maybe it's talent attraction and retention, those kind of figures, absenteeism numbers, this kind of idea? Is that what they're interested in? Because if it is, you're going to need those kind of metrics. You need a baseline, and then you need your 1 year from now. Is it, maybe they're driven by health behaviors, health outcomes of their colleagues. Maybe they want to see, is what we're doing leading to healthy behavior change within our organization? So again, you need a baseline of how you're anonymized, of course, the kind of general health and well-being of our colleagues. And 1 year from now, is there any kind of changes there? So maybe it's those kind of metrics. So that's how you work out what metrics you need, and have that conversation with those key stakeholders at the beginning and say, okay, 1 year from now, I'm going to be showing you stats on this. So remember, don't ask for X stat next year when I haven't been tracking it from day one. So good way to do it. How to track progress. Well, that's how you track progress. So you just see, so if you go through, I think Ness, you're talking, how do you track progress? So let's say, depending on what your metrics you've identified, you're going to look at, if you go through the 8-step framework, step 4 is where you craft your operating plan. And you'll have seen thanks to steps 1, 2, and 3, where you've been gathering meaningful data and understanding the needs and wants of your colleagues, you'll have got an idea that, let's say, okay, we know there's an issue with stress and burnout in our workplace. And we know that now, we're losing 100 days a year to stress and burnout. A high-level goal might be, in 1 year's time, 1 year's narrow enough, but 1 or 2 years' time, we want to reduce absenteeism as a result of stress and burnout by 10%, something modest, even 5%, just to see some kind of improvement. And there's your high-level goal. So every intervention you choose is in support of that high-level goal then. You're working towards that. Maybe it's workshops, it's mental health first aid, it's training programs, it's again, you're doing stuff related to ISO 45003. You're understanding where the root causes of this burnout coming from, and this is it workload, is it rostering, is it social factors, and then you're targeting those areas that you know where there's an issue with interventions. Oh, thanks very much, Marie. I was missing another question there. Let's see, can I go back up? I don't know if I can go back up. Thanks, Marie and Carol. Oh yeah, great question, Carol. Any challenges with this being a slow burn, considering we live in a result-driven world? Absolutely. And if I wanted to just sell, to be honest, just from a personal perspective, if I wanted to sell courses or workshops or products, I would just sell the quick fix solutions like 99% of every other well-being operation seems to be doing. Whereas I'm selling the absolute slow burn, as you say there. But so here's how it works, and what a lot of the students that have come through the 8-step framework program have found this. So while they're working on the 8 steps, while they're working through it, taking their time, trying to do it as properly as possible, they're still being asked for results, and we need interventions. We need something. We need to be seen to show that we're doing something. So you can do that in simultaneously, and you can still learn from them. So choose an intervention. It mightn't be as you might have had the time and you would have liked to prepare for it, and it mightn't be supporting a high level goal per se, but you can still learn from those interventions. You can get some customer satisfaction. You can understand needs and wants, participation, engagement around. You can still learn from your those interventions. There's kind of results driven interventions, while at the same time, so you've almost got two kind of trains on the tracks. One is just to keep the show on the road, show people that you're making progress. But two is you're slowly building up your data, your business case over time. You're gathering information, you're building relationships with people. That's how it works. It's that relationship and slow process, I guess, over time that leads to the really positive results in the long term. Claire, what do I think of the 4-day work week? I think it depends. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it depends on the organization. I think what I love kind of anything that just queries the way things are. I like that already in advance, like already. So we work 5 days, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, just as a hangover from the Industrial Revolution. There's no other reason why we do it. So here's something that's proposing something slightly different. 4 days. I think it's an extra. It depends on the organization. Maybe an extra hour a day. If you've listened, you've probably heard some of my podcasts. I've had at least 3 leaders on in the last season of the podcast talking about the 4-day week, including the founder of the global movement in New Zealand. So if you haven't heard them, have a listen back to them. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it depends on the organization. I think where it could be unfair is on maybe a really small organization with less than 10 employees. That could be challenging. How do you manage that in that scenario? Now, there may be a way to work around it. But I think a slightly medium to larger organization, I'm sure there has to be a way to work around it. And all the stats look really positive coming out of it. So let me know what you think of it. I think this is good. There's too many questions coming in, which is fantastic. Here's Donald, my old buddy there, head of mental health first aid Ireland. Thanks, Donald. Ambassador training. Yeah, okay. So Donald so I haven't, for whatever reason, the whole point isn't coming across, Donald. I'm sure I'll see it on LinkedIn. I think Donald is saying, there was a question earlier about the kind of the ally training at Accenture. And I think the way Accenture had it done was they certainly had mental health first aid Ireland in the beginning. Then they developed their own kind of program internally. But as far as I know, they still work with Mental Health First Aid Ireland. Maybe is it once a year or something like that, to underpin their efforts and support what they're doing, as Donald is saying. I think that's what Donald is getting at there. So thanks for that, Donald. Presenteeism versus absenteeism. Depends. It's very hard. How do you measure presenteeism? It's quite hard, isn't it? At least absenteeism, 100% if someone is there or not. Is it realistic to measure? Depends. Yeah, it depends. But you know what? If you build up trust over time in your people, that's where you start getting realistic data back in your surveys. So if you run a survey and you get some negative feedback, say, which you probably will in the first one you run, and then you don't take action, that's just going to lead to, I think, worse and worse kind of outcomes, or inaccurate data in your survey, because people just won't trust you. They won't trust that you're going to take action on the survey, so they won't even bother filling it out properly. But if you're transparent, you show even the negative, you show the positive, you show the negative in your results, and you demonstrate you take action over time, you will find that your information just becomes a little bit more accurate, a little bit more reliable over time. And so then you probably will be able to gather some detailed presentees and data, as well as other statistics then as well. And Donald's just clarifying. Thanks, Donald. Oh, fantastic. Of course. I'm sure Donald, of course, was in Accenture there himself for a while. So they had first-hand experience in there working on the program. So that's why I used Accenture as an example there. So from a mental health ally perspective, anyway, mental health champion perspective, they're certainly the most robust program I've come across in Ireland. So I'll tell you what, anyone who registered for this session, I will include a link to the webinar I did with Rachel and with Ellen from Accenture about a year and a half ago, where they talked us through the program there. It may have changed or tweaked slightly, but you'll get the idea. A very interesting story, the formation of that program as well. Thanks, Claire. You've been brilliant. Thanks to everyone who's been tuning in. Oh, it's great to have Desi here as well. Desi facilitates where it started, actually, of course, mental health first aid in Australia. And I like that it needs a prequel, yeah. And that's what, if you saw Emily, who was commenting earlier, again, I might link to Emily's podcast. She came on the Work Well podcast. What the work she does is a lot of focus on the recruitment side of things, and then also the post, the follow-ups, if you like, the sequels as well to the training as well. So yeah, Desi, make sure you contact Donald there. Donald is head of mental health first aid in Ireland. And I know Donald actually is working on the prequel and the sequel stuff as well. So I'm sure we'll hear more on that later this year. Donald's just back in the hot seat there this month, so won't put him under too much pressure. But I just wanted to finish off quickly. I mentioned the Wellbeing Champion training that I run at here at Work Well Ireland and the Work Well community. I'll just quickly give you an intro to that for anyone that doesn't know why on earth should you sign up to it. Well, look, if you want to go about creating that shared ownership for well-being, this is how you do it. It's true. We really empower the colleagues on the call. They're live. It's facilitated. It's the colleagues chatting amongst themselves, brainstorming amongst themselves in a kind of controlled, facilitated environment. We'll have lots of outputs from the sessions, including you'll have a draft of your well-being champion role. Now it goes to you. You still need to input into it, and you still need to kind of finalize it. But you'll have a draft of what that role might look like. You'll have a draft, or you'll be able to craft a well-being vision statement. We'll have a look at that. I always think that's a really important step in a well-being program. Is what are you doing the well-being program for? Well, what's the point of it? What's the vision? What's the North Star, for want of a better term? So can you craft a well-being vision statement from your organization's vision statement, so that by driving towards your well-being vision, you're actually driving towards the organization's vision? Brilliant way to get leadership on board. And we have a look at that in the training. Look, we're not sugarcoating this either. Every organization is different, and I haven't come across an organization yet that doesn't have challenges, doesn't have barriers to doing something like this. So I think it's important we try and identify as many of them as possible, and of course then look at solutions as well. Final session, then we look at can we make a bit of a plan for the year ahead for the champion team. And so in other words, this training doesn't get you to the finish line. It's not a done and dusted at the end of this. This gets you to the start line. This gets your champion team to the start line, so they're ready to support you, the wellbeing leader, with your wellbeing program development. And for the final time, I'm in a lucky position now that, so by the way, it's 4 workshops, all online. We do 2-hour sessions, add in all the supporting resources. I'm in a very fortunate position now where we've already, January 25th, 4 companies have already signed up just in the last 2 weeks. So for the last time, I'm going to offer the course for €3,200. Go to workwellinstitute.org. Find some details there. Look for the Wellbeing Champion training. Find the details. Drop me a line, Last time I'm going to be offering it at this price because thankfully there's a lot of interest. So let me know if you'd like to book in the next month or so. And there's the jacket. Due to popular demand, I had to bring the jacket back. So thank you everyone for all your time. I'm going to hang on for a minute or two. So if anyone has any questions, final questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm hoping that's about the jacket now, Desi, is it? Fabulous. Thank you very much for your time, Desi, and everybody. And thank you. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, everyone. So, listen, any final questions? I'm going to hang on the line. If anyone would like to have a chat, let me know. I think I'll end the, well, actually, I can't. It's not, it's going out on all sessions, so I can't stop the recording. So if anyone wants to chat, let me know. Thanks, Marie. You're very welcome. Maria on YouTube. Well, what do we think of the format, by the way? Or sorry, kind of the stream. So it goes out on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and Twitter, actually. Was it as seamless as a Zoom webinar? Let me know any thoughts or any feedback on that. Cheers, Donald. Appreciate that. Hope that you're settling back into the role well, Donald. Must catch up for that coffee soon. We can do it in person now. Thanks very much, Ray. Appreciate that. And Jer down at 3M and at Lone. How you doing, Jer? Great stuff, Desi. Yeah. Look forward to it. I'll put you in touch with Donald if you're interested. Madeline down in Cork, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Hope you're getting on well in Cork, Madeline. Oh, hey, Yvonne. Thank you. You're very welcome. Oh, and Glenn. Hi, Glenn. Yes, the format works. Brilliant. Thanks for the feedback, Yvonne. Really appreciate that. And Carol as well. Thank you. Well, thank you for making it so interactive, Carol and Claire and everybody else. Okay, so yeah, so so it's funny. I'm not able to see myself on LinkedIn. I'm using a Restream, so I can't even see who's online or who's on. I can see the numbers on YouTube there. I think they show on the top of the screen, but it's just the YouTube numbers, really. So great to know you're following it on LinkedIn. Thanks, Jer. Oh yeah, I just mentioned it there. So Brona's just asking. Oh, great. Good to hear. It was the best one you've seen. Yeah, so I use Restream. It's called Restream. And happy to chat to you about it separately, but it's there's a free version and like them all, and then there's a paid version as well. The paid version, but the free version I think you can stream up to 3 different channels. So you could go LinkedIn, you need LinkedIn Live. So you need to be able to set up access to LinkedIn Live to use that. So you need to do that internally through LinkedIn if you haven't already. And then I go into the Restream Studio to run these. Now it has its kind of limitations because when I'm presenting in PowerPoint, I can't see the chat. So I actually have to kind of publish when I have to click a button now to pop up all the lovely comments. So just small little limitations like that. But I have to say it's really nice. I can put up stuff like this. Like, look, I forgot to even put this up. There you go. Look, your Wellbeing Champion training. Go to the website there. This kind of stuff. You can put up nice captions as well. So it works well. And Jared has a good question. So will we be able to see this again on YouTube? That's almost the beauty of this as well. After this session, it's automatically kind of recorded. So if you go back and if you have the link, you can go back on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook and Twitter. So wherever I had it scheduled, it goes live across all 4 with a click of a button here in Restream. Plus, it'll automatically be recorded. So anyone who stumbles across the link will also be able to see the recording. Then they can tune into the recording. Excellent. I hope is that all the questions. Let me know any more questions. It's kind of lunchtime for most people, isn't it? Not for Desi though. Not for Desi. It's bedtime in Australia. But for most of us here in GMT time, it is lunchtime. You're welcome, Jer. Yeah, so pop back on whatever channel you want, Jer, YouTube or LinkedIn, whatever's handiest. Yeah, no, it's worth. Like I said, try out the free one, Brona. Try the free version. I since one of those. It is good, so I've signed up now. They got me they got me in. I signed up for the whatever the paid version is. And I get a few extra bells and whistles. But you can definitely get away with the free version for plenty of time as well, especially when you're just getting started. Cool. Listen, thanks everyone. Really appreciate that. Check out. Drop me a line with any questions. Where's my? Oh, sure, it's up on screen there already. But look, put the caption up while I have it. Drop me a line with any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer any more. And everyone who registered for the session will automatically go on the mailing list if they weren't already. So you'll automatically get the details of the next webinar. I'm trying to run them every 2 weeks, actually. I'm trying to run something every 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, 2 weeks' time. Brilliant one lined up with Dr. Mali Coyne. She's a child psychologist, and she's actually just recently developed a course for the Workwell Institute as well, Self-Care for Working Parents. It's an excellent program. It really is. So Mali will be live with us in 2 weeks' time, Tuesday in 2 weeks' time. That's everything, guys. I will see you later. So listen, thanks everyone for all your time. Really appreciate it. And I will talk to you on the next webinar.